we'll go ahead and kick off this meeting. Good morning, everyone, and those on the other side and on the line. It's a little past 10:30. Let's go ahead and get this meeting started. First, my name is Hercules Cummings, and with me on the line is Ben Quandy, our Executive Officer, and I also have with me in the room is Sarah Johnson, our current President of RED. Together, we represent Western Region Economic Development. We represent Northwest conglomeration of counties, Divide County, McKenzie, Montreal, and Williams. And our mission is to facilitate and promote a vibrant, diversified, and sustainable economy through collaboration and outreach. Today, we have a very special guest, none other than Mr. Ness, who is presenting the 2023 Oil and Gas Update and the Bakken Grow Global Recruitment of Oil Field Workforce. But first, a big shout out to our sponsors. Our sponsor is none other than B&G Oilfield Services. It's a multi-service, multi-basin oil field service provider with experience, leadership, and a continued commitment to superior work, quality, customer service, and safety. With over 50 years of service, it established itself as a premier oil field service provider for exploration, production, and midstream companies in the Northern Plains region. It was also voted as one of the winners of the Best of the Bakken in 2018. Now, we want to provide just a brief bio of Mr. Ness. We're happy to have him here. He is currently the president of North Dakota Petroleum Council. Before that, he held that position since 1999, and his primary function is governmental relations in North Dakota. And he serves as the industry spokesperson and manages the association, which represents more than 500 companies involved in all aspects of North Dakota's oil and gas industry. And he's a man without an introduction. You've seen him on the media and the news. Before that, he was previously the president of North Dakota Retail Petroleum Marketers Association. And prior to that, he spent 10 years with the state of North Dakota, most of which as a deputy commissioner of labor. I can continue all day with his seasoned and decorated professional background and accomplishments. So again, it's a big honor, privilege to have Mr. Ness present to us today. Before we get started, just some simple house rules. Please mute your mic. We should have it on auto mute regardless. And when you do speak, ask a question. We ask that you kindly filter out or just be mindful of any of the background noise. And please use that chat box within the Zoom app for any questions you have, and then we will answer them in the order. So with that said, we will turn this over to Mr. Ness.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. This is actually very timely as the legislative session is just about to wrap up. I'm not sure if Senator Beckedahl made it on the call this morning or not, but I know he was scheduled to, so I hope he is and he can chime in today. But also, I think it's just a great time to have that discussion about where we're at in North Dakota's oil and gas industry. I was in Houston last week, had visits with Hess, Cord Energy, and others, and actually brought in all of the large employers that are contractors for Hess into their office and talked about workforce for pretty much an entire day. And those virtually were all Williston domiciled companies. So I've got a lot of information, but it was incredible, really a full discussion about the challenge of workforce today and how acute it has become. But a lot of things I think we could dial back to the community and how many good things have happened over the last 15 years. But now how do we turn that dial up just to make sure that the employee retention issue is really the issue? And I'll dive into that significantly here. But we've done a lot of these sessions with our members. They always work best when you get your questions in that chat box online anytime. Otherwise, it's kind of like I'm sitting here talking to a screen, and I really want to spend the time today visiting about the issues that you have, the questions that you have. So with that, I think the state of the industry today is very strong. And that was one of the messages that we talked about last week in terms of not only the Petroleum Council, but the various organizations across the state and the individual larger Bakken operators need to stand up and talk about their commitment to the Bakken, the inventory of wells that they have to drill. For instance, Hess has over 2,000 wells in their inventory. I know XTO has 15 to 18 years of wells in their inventory. Continental, the other large operators go on and on and on. And I think that becomes very important message, not only to the people of North Dakota and to the secondary businesses that look at locating in North Dakota. And obviously we got a lot of discussion about value added entities right now, but really for the workers, I think that we heard time and time again that there is a hesitancy to commit to North Dakota and to the Bakken, fear of the peaks and valleys. And I continue to say we are operating at a very high level. Even though we're going to have some ups and downs in the industry, the fact that we're operating today at about 45 to 47 drilling rigs. Neighbors during that presentation last week said that they drilled just as many feet of wells in 2022 as they did in 2018, with I think nine or so less rigs. So the technology changes that we have seen are simply incredible. So the industry is still producing 1.1 million barrels a day. That's certainly a goal of mine, and I think one that I hope the state of North Dakota embraces. I don't believe we're going to get maybe to 1.5 million. I don't know if we're going to get to 2 million. Certainly not going to get to 2 million unless something crazy happens. But a steady, reliable, predictable oil and gas industry in across North Dakota is going to have tremendous effects for our state long term. And I think that's the message that these employees and their families need to hear, and the people that we're trying to bring in to work. Because as I said, the retention issue was quite shocking to me, I think. And we always know that turnover is high. So we're doing everything we can to try and not only bring people here, but try to get them to stay that first 6 months, that first year. The numbers from the big companies change drastically. If you get people to stay 6 months, people to stay 1 year, they're less likely to jump back to the Permian or somewhere else, or just go to a different industry. And we know that we are in an extremely competitive labor market right now. We used to just think that we always just paid people more in the oil and gas industry. Technically, that's always allowed us to recruit people. But you look at the wages of Amazon, you look at the wages of other industries across the country today, and it's really become a challenge for us to elevate to that next level of pay, which is going to be, I think, one of those questions of, is that what industry will do? And I would say, if we can provide that stable, reliable resource and that playing field for the industry, hopefully we will see that. So let's dive into some of the numbers. The 2023 legislative session for us, I think, was one of, we had a number of really important issues. We had a number of issues that we played defense on. I think maybe we got rolled into some other issues relating to carbon dioxide and things that would have just really set a horrible precedent for some of the critical aspects of things like unitization in the Bakken, or some of the pipeline issues. Fortunately, the legislature defeated virtually all of those bills that were really single issue, single point in time aspects, which I'm glad they were defeated. Those things come up from time to time on various issues, but the big picture, we've done quite well, I think, in North Dakota. So the oil tax trigger, a lot of people ask me, Ron, do we really need to repeal that oil tax trigger? Of course, this is a trigger that increases a surcharge on the oil extraction tax when price hits a certain threshold. And my response was that last year when price in the Bakken went over $100, I didn't feel like we really ever saw the big bounce. Typically, you get an initial big bounce, a big surge of investment when you see oil prices go that high. And I just felt like that extra tax, it was a 20% tax increase on the oil extraction tax. And that kind of stymied some of that growth that we would expect to see. And you have to have those surges of activity, especially after COVID, when, as a result of the 2015 legislation flattening out the oil tax, we didn't have a big decrease in the oil tax rate, which the extraction tax would have gone to zero. Water, education, all of those funds that come off the oil extraction tax, of course, would have been suffering. So the state and all of those entities received the benefit. And then when the oil price went high and we needed companies to get healthy, the market wanted to invest in oil, we didn't have that. So the legislature eliminated that high tax trigger and the governor signed it, and it's a good piece of legislation. Probably the little sleeper of the session is this next bill, House Bill 1272. Prime sponsor was Jeremy Olson out of McKenzie County, District 26. And this creates just a simple little thing that creates a well status in the Industrial Commission rules for enhanced oil recovery. And for those of us that want to see the Bakken here for 30, 50, or 70 years, we have to ensure that we have a mechanism in order to keep these aging Bakken wells around. And this basically, if your well has good wellbore integrity, this will allow you to put it into a category and basically set it aside as more of an asset than a liability on the big company side, and something that we hope eventually either rich gas or carbon dioxide will be used to enhance that productivity out of the Bakken. And we know that, somewhere today, out of every 100 barrels of oil in the ground, we're leaving 83 to 85 of them behind. So we need that technology, every technology possible. And I think this ensures that these well bores will be around for a longer period of time to allow us to apply that technology to them. Now you partner that with House Bill 1427, which again is a pretty minor incentive on the big picture of things, but basically it says if you have a Bakken well or any well that's older than 5 years old, it's producing less than 125 barrels a day, and you go in and you refrac that well, you get a 3% reduction in your extraction tax for the first 75,000 barrels. Refracking those existing wells obviously makes sense for the environment. It makes sense to get the production of those levels back up again until they decline and ultimately become marginal wells or stripper wells, and you're not going to pay an extraction tax on those anyways. So the longer that we can incentivize industry to keep going back and re-stimulating those wells. And historically, this has been probably more effective at lower oil prices. If you're going to go back in and refrac a well today, it's still probably $4 to $6 million. But as oil prices decline and the services come available, we think that it's good for the service industry to have this incentive out there, but ultimately the producer may look at doing more refracs instead of drilling new wells. So a combination of those two bills together, I think, begins to set up for the longer term in some of these areas after the tier 1 area wells are drilled. What's next? How do we get more oil out of that incredible Bakken resource that we know is there going forward? The royalty owner ombudsman bill, Senate Bill 2194, the prime sponsor was Dale Patton, again out of McKenzie County. This bill there's 150,000 plus mineral owners in North Dakota, royalty owners. The royalty statements are very complex. I think they're going to get more complex as minerals are moving through family ancestries more and more. And there's a lot of frustration amongst mineral owners. We've got some issues which mineral owners are pure and simple, just very mad and very angry about their deducts and those things with individual companies. This probably isn't going to fix that, but I think for all of those mineral owners and royalty owners out there who generally have good questions, want more information, this program is going to be run by the Ag Commissioner, Doug Goring, and I suspect that he'll do a great job of this, just as he did with the pipeline ombudsman program a number of years ago, and it really helped address that by getting more information out there from a very neutral third party who hires the expertise to make this happen. And finally, maybe most important, we have seen incredible success through the Clean Sustainable Energy Authority, which 2021 legislature started. The Williston area probably was the largest beneficiary of this thus far. The Sierra Lawn project, a couple of other projects up in Williams County, dealing with rare earth minerals and produced water. There's some tremendous opportunity to really raise the bar in terms of clean and sustainable energy in North Dakota. I think it is literally number one on all the Bakken operators headlines if you talk to the CEOs. And we're talking in the Petroleum Council, we're talking about a Bakken zero pad, where literally there'll be no emissions or a net zero emissions off any Bakken pad. That's where the producers want to get to. That's where the market and the investors want to get them to. And my look at this whole issue is if we can do that and we continue to make the Bakken the cleanest barrel in the world, we gain an advantage over certainly other places in the world, but also other places in the United States. So our ability to leverage grants and funding and loans like that through all of these different grant programs. There's also another grant program that is going to be coming out through the Oil and Gas Research Council. That bill had final passage in the Senate this morning, and it basically creates a grant program for emission reducing technologies. Historically, that was the gas capture incentive for remote wells that weren't connected to a gas plant. We've expanded it a little bit to try and incentivize and encourage emission reducing technologies on any facilities, any well pad. So we'll see where that goes, but I'm pretty excited about that. We rolled out our 2020, these are 2022 data. We rolled it out in early March at our Petroleum Council spring board meeting in a legislature. The governor helped roll this out, but the fact that we are still a $42 billion industry in North Dakota, certainly one of the premier largest industries in the state, over 30% of the state's gross production product. Coming out of COVID, COVID was, as I've said many, many times, COVID was really rough on this industry. There was not a backstop in place for the oil and gas industry. We saw a lot of financial destruction in markets. We saw bankruptcies. We saw people leave. But for us to rebound in 2022 and show this type of a number, I think, did you skip one slide there? Did it bounce twice? There's one. Let's just check that out. Maybe I'm wrong. No, maybe. So these are two slides I really want you to pay attention to, and this is a function of many things, but as an industry, peak of the boom, 2014, 2015, we probably had around 67,000 North Dakotans engaged in the oil and gas industry. And now with these data, about 50,000. So we have seen technology, we have seen everything take place. And that's why we can do today with 45 drilling rigs what we were doing with really about 90 pre-COVID. And before that, of course, we peaked out at 218 in May, I think, of 2013. So we're getting more efficient. The infrastructure is in place. We've got better roads. We've got more pipelines. We got more gas plants. All of these things are good for long-term investment in the Bakken. And that's why I think getting the producers out to message not only to the state, but to everybody across the region that the Bakken is here to stay. It's thriving. It's doing well. We're growing. We're just smarter. We're more efficient. We're more economic. All of those things will help us attract investment and keep the longevity of this plant going forward. So you can see the real economic kicker is always with drilling new wells on the extraction and production side of the business. It just, as you know, that $8 to $10 million new oil well, that's what drives so many of the service sector companies and all of those functions. Literally zero, Williston is the epicenter of all of that aspect of the industry. So very, very important to keep an eye on this. And of course, almost a $4 billion payroll in the state of North Dakota. That is significant. 3.8 billion of total government revenues to the state as a whole, and you see where all of those things come from. But we are simply continue to be a juggernaut in terms of the revenue streams that we provide back to local and state government, and of course a lot of the good things the legislature is doing this session, including investing in water, investing in education, investing in infrastructure, and tax reductions that are likely going to pass later today and tomorrow in the House and Senate. Pretty $515 million of income tax and property tax reductions. All of those things simply would not be possible if you didn't have the revenue streams out of the oil and gas industry. And I think it accounts for a little over 50% of all the state tax revenues. This is a very important slide. I know our Western legislators have worked hard. Many of us have all worked hard to garner that statewide support for the industry, showing where the dollars go, how they benefit, not just in terms of dollars back for water projects, for education, for tax relief, for the Outdoor Heritage Fund, now the Prairie Dog Fund back to local communities, townships, counties. all of those things. This has probably been one of the most significant changes that we've made working with the oil and gas producing counties in terms of ensuring that people statewide don't just say, oh, it's just Williams and McKenzie and Montreal and Dunn County that are benefiting from oil and gas. No, that's simply not the truth. This has also helped us ensure that we retain the formulas to get the funding back to those counties that are producing the oil, but it's critically important to ensure that we have that support from the rest of the state. Next slide, please. So here are these two job slides in a row. So keep track of these two. So this is 2019, pre-COVID, 24,000 direct jobs. Those are, particularly heavy jobs in Williams County, and I've got the data from every county on where the jobs are. Williams, Dunn, McKenzie, Cass County, Grand Forks County, Burleigh County. And it's very, very interesting to track this. Go to the next slide, Reba. Look at the change pre-COVID to post-COVID. 10,000 jobs directly, primarily out of that direct jobs of industry. And so why are we focusing on workforce today? We're just doing more with less. And yes, we've got a tremendous amount of technology advancements. We've got, COVID has changed how people may work from home, work multiple jobs from home, all of those things. But the reality is, we're not building a lot of new gas plants. We're not building a lot of new infrastructure out there. As I said, the infrastructure is in place. We've got the pipelines there, all of those things. But at the end of the day, that is a dramatic shift, almost 1/3 less direct employees in the industry. So it's multifaceted. I wouldn't say it's all because of workforce shortage, but today when industry is going strong, I think that we've got a certain percentage of this is directly related to our inability to keep and retain people. So 10,000 jobs is nothing to not notice. But the good news is I should have the next slide up here should be school enrollment numbers in the oil and gas producing counties, because I think what has happened is a lot of those people were the transient workers that worked the shift work, that came and went with all those extra rigs, all those extra frac crews. More and more of the people now are related to the production side of the industry, or permanent with the extraction side of the industry, permanent with the gas plants. So less people overall, but I would guess to say, probably more people with families here, more of a localized workforce becoming part of the communities, which was something that we've been preaching that really since 2010, 11, 12, when everybody was so busy. Get involved, get engaged, move forward. We've got a number of members of the industry in the legislature this year. That's a good sign. We hope they're getting on school boards. We're getting on all of these different activities and boards. So this is just a couple of snapshots here of what's the oil and gas industry mean to the state of North Dakota. Roughly 29% of the wages come from oil and gas of the entire state's economy. It's really just incredible when you think about that. Along with some of these unemployment numbers now, and you look at why the legislature has spent a lot of time. The State Chamber of Commerce surveys their members. Number one issue for any employer is the challenge that they're having as their business grows, and as we try to attract these new value-added businesses, and maybe Dickinson, Minot, Williston, Watford City, any of the surrounding Trenton, Tioga. If we think we're going to bring in big monster industries, and the oil and gas industry alone can't find enough workers, something's got to change. And that's why I'm glad had this opportunity today. I'm going to be talking to the Dickinson Chamber of Commerce in a couple of weeks, but we have to think out of the box a little bit. And you look at how acute our workforce issue is in North Dakota versus, it's not good in the rest of the country, but in North Dakota, it's extremely challenging. And across the country, we've lost millions and millions of workers. And you try to put a finger on, where did they go? What are they doing? What's changed? Something has just changed. Now, I'm at the very end of the baby boomer pool of workers. And I can look at friends of mine, my age and a little bit older, who are retiring extremely fast. And I think probably on an elevated precedent now, again, since COVID, people are checking out at, 60, 62, 58. Got friends in all those areas that have retired, in addition to the workers coming in. So we simply do not have enough workers across the entire country. So as you frame up this workforce issue, let's go to the next slide. You frame up to this workforce issue, and you've got 42 workers for every 100 jobs in North Dakota. This is not a one-time fix. We are not going to bring in 500-700 people and fix this. I think this is a decade-long problem. 3,000 to 5,000 employees, probably just for the oil and gas industry. 3,000 to 5,000 employees between the oil and gas industry and the related sectors across Western North Dakota that comprise those 50,000. I'd say we need 3,000 to 5,000 people a year for each of the next 5 to 10 years. So, what are we going to do to make that happen? That gets tough, and you can see the numbers in North Dakota. Let's go to the next slide. As we know, we're not surprised that we're about 0.25% of the state's total industry, so we're also about 1/4 of the state's jobs and the state's job openings. So as we start looking at this and we dig down and we begin visiting with employers, and we talk to the Department of Commerce and the Workforce Safety Council, the mindset of the industry is where I think we're going to begin shifting our message and our focus. That this is not boom or bust. If you walk down the street in Bismarck or Fargo or elsewhere, people might think, oh, there's not much going on in Western North Dakota. The industry is really struggling. Simply not the case. It's just different. It's changed. There's a new plane. We're going to see a steady 1% growth. Industry is not rewarded anymore to grow production through the roof. There's not somebody out there that's going to buy your company if you grow your production. They want a return on investment long term. We've been through the struggles. We've had the bankruptcies. We've now got kind of a new step change. We just had Grayson Mill buy Ovintiv. I think that's certainly fantastic for the Williston area. Grayson Mill is growing their footprint. So companies with a bigger footprint that have a bigger swath across industry with a bigger inventory, I think are really good for long-term going forward. So we've got a big challenge with our young people who we need to want to go into the energy industry in North Dakota, not just oil and gas, but any energy sector. And of course, it's hard to tackle the North Dakota cold. This was a rough year. I know many of our members are talking about, virtually just losing crews, losing people, because it was a long, brutal, cold winter, and it is what it is. But now it's a beautiful spring and summer and fall, and we hope to turn that. We hope to see those crews coming back from Texas, and I think talking to Halliburton, Neighbors, and some of those other crews, that happens. And employees today have a choice of where they're going to work. So I think we will see a bump this summer in terms of the availability of workers, and I certainly hope that's the case. I'm going to leave that lack of larger cities offering attractions for a little bit later here, because I've got a bunch of notes I took in Houston last week that I'll go through that are really specific to the Williston area, economic area. And certainly the competitive marketplace is everybody's looking for workers, and we've got to be able to outcompete fast food and Amazon and FedEx and everybody else that's hiring people now at elevated wages that we've just never seen before. So Wilson had a job fair. Reva got up there, I think, or somebody, or I don't think we did, but we stayed in touch with Paula, Job Service, and we're really trying to reignite our relationship with Job Service North Dakota, with Paula and with Pat at the head of the Job Service in North Dakota now. I think that we can they've got so many tools and so many ways that they can help employers, that we've got to work with them and make sure that all of their services and the services of commerce and workforce safety and everywhere else are out there and understood to help employers every way possible. But these are just big numbers for these are 2012 type numbers when things were just booming, 2012 to 2014, I would say. So to get 380 people there was great. But I would say that those 380 people probably all were employed somewhere in Williston, because this was in the evening, and this is not going to help all of the employers in the community. So let's move forward. This is what that looked like. You can see the whole list of employers there off to the right side of that screen, and these are fantastic. I hope they continue to do them and make sure that everybody, if they've got a job they don't like, instead of leaving North Dakota and leaving Williston, they find a new job. That's okay. Here's some of the concerns that I've been elevating up in our organization, and as you'll see with our One Basin One Way program next, the type of worker that we're hearing is coming in today. You get 100 workers, you go through all of the drug screening, all of the processes, and you probably hire 7. And maybe out of the 7, you hire 2 of them don't show up the first day of work. So it is a huge cost. But all of these items that I've listed here, they all begin to tick up the safety concern for me. We've got to focus on safety. The workplace injuries in the oil and gas industry, a huge percentage of them occur in the first 12 months of employment. And we've got to make sure that we continue to provide a safe workplace, but getting employees off the farm in North Dakota to fill all these jobs is just not going to happen. So some of the employers last week even talked about showing employees how to use a hammer. How do you use a hammer without hurting yourself? Those are whole new learning mindsets that I don't think we've ever had to teach in the oil and gas industry before. So those are the realities of the new workforce, and those are the ways and the directions we have to take in order to train people. Our One Basin One Way program is just an incredible success. I know Kenley is on the phone. The number of people that we have trained over the past 4 years. In July, it'll be 4 years since we started this program. We spent 18 months and 99 different companies putting this together. Really, the focus was instead of sending employees to 6 to a dozen different training sessions with different operators, to try and organize this all under one training session that everybody agreed on. These are the criteria that a new employee should learn in order to be safe on the workplace on day 1. So you look at we're training about 400 employees a week. We've had over 192,000 hours of training. 1,800 different contractors or companies have participated, and over 56,000 certificates have been issued. And I think today we've got about 17 or 18,000 active certificates. So incredible training program, continues to evolve, but TrainND and North Dakota Safety Council have done an incredible job. But the trainers are great, the training is great, and we get these employees off into the workplace with a safe mindset, and they do it in 4 hours, not 4 hours 9 different times. And I continually tell operators that an employee doesn't know if they're on a Cord work site, a Continental work site, a XTO work site, or any work site. What they should focus on is the safety on any well pad and any work site, rather than trying to think about, let's see whose operation are we working at today. We can deliver this at a lower cost, more efficiently, and get people out in the field where they should be. This has risen to the level in which the WSI director and I are going to probably go out on the road over the next few weeks. We're going to maybe either do standalone meetings, or else we're going to go with oil operators as they bring in their safety contractors and try and discuss some of these safety issues with employees and contractors. In the One Basin One Way program, we targeted road safety. And I know that there are horrible accidents that happen, but the infrastructure that we've seen out west, the safe driving aspects of the industry, the numbers have decreased dramatically in recent years. Got to give the credit back to the legislature and Governor Dalrymple and the communities and everybody who's the counties, the townships that keep these roads in good shape. But at the end of the day, it's still that driver behind the wheel that has to think safe and drive safe every minute of every day. And we think that we've made a difference here, and we will continue to highlight this, but we're going to do that with other aspects throughout our One Basin One Way program as well. So what are we doing in terms of workforce? What have we been doing? T4 summits are simply incredible. The one in Watford City a couple weeks ago, see all those kids in that school talking about trades, tools, and things that may or may not light that spark amongst these young people, but just for them to understand that there's an opportunity for them in Western North Dakota, a great opportunity. You partner this with the skill centers that are now being developed. I think this is really the critical, most important thing that we can do long-term in order to ensure that we've got a workforce that allows operators to deploy their CapEx each year. And that's really becoming the issue is, as a large producer, can I spend $1.1 billion in North Dakota and the Williston Basin in 2024 and 25 and 26 and 27? Or do I have to look to shift my capital elsewhere? We do not want that to happen. So we bring in school teachers. We've been doing this for 30 plus years, 45 school teachers. Incredible transformation in what I've seen there in terms of, I keep thinking we're going to get these angry teachers against energy. And the reality is more of their students are going to work in the energy industry in North Dakota. More of them are previously been working in the energy industry. They're engaged. They want to understand. They want to know how they can find the right fit for all of their students. And I think as we speak, we've got a training course going on at Train and D or somewhere in Williston for some management and leadership courses for some of our Petroleum Council members, just trying to make sure that even though you might be the best employee with a pipe wrench out in the field, that when you get elevated, which can happen very quickly, be in charge of everybody else out in the field with a pipe wrench, that you've got those management leadership tools to effectively be able to advance yourself in that company. So important, I think, for retention as well. So we are working on a new energy curriculum. We think this is another step to get an energy curriculum into schools, make it easy for teachers. We're partnered with the coal industry and Life Power, a group out of Texas that has done a lot of policy curriculum work. We're gonna, I think our first partnership's going to be with the Bakken Area Skills Center with McKenzie County or Watford City School District, and try to eventually make this available to schools throughout the state of North Dakota, working with the career academies, as I said, on this and every other energy aspect. I believe that we just got McKenzie County just got a grant for a workover rig training program to help Kenley get his workover rig training program back up. I'll talk about the need for that in a minute. The Polytechnic Institute in Bismarck, I think, is an incredible opportunity. Tuition or enrollment at that school is growing rapidly. And I think Wilson State, Dickinson, Minot State, all of those, I think our time is now, actually. I think more than ever, kids are looking at schools that can deliver for them the type of training to get them in the workplace faster at a lower cost. And I know that the tuition waiver program at Wilson State College is something that if we can inspire kids and find the right fit for them, I think we'll fill those colleges. Here's just some of those, look at those kids in that room. You know, if we can just make them aware, at least of the energy industry and make them support us, even if they don't go to work for the industry somewhere down the line, that's going to pay big dividends. So here were the recruiting messages that we began to come up with over the last several weeks and elevated some of these last week. about the Bakken, about how we can recruit, what we should be using to recruit. And I don't think anybody on this call would disagree with any of these, but we are interested in your points of what you use for recruiting into the community or into the industry in order to add to this. Department of Commerce continues to focus on their good life in North Dakota, and I think the outdoor activities, all of those issues really elevate to the top. I'll say healthcare and good schools came up in our discussion last week, and I'll give you my list in a minute here of challenges that the large service companies felt we had in North Dakota. So with all that said, what has made the big change here for us in the last 5 weeks that leads us to go out and say we got to find immigrants? And you look at this, and despite all we hear about illegal immigration has really been on the decline in this country for some time. We know that there are, despite what maybe the Fargo Forum thinks, there are a tremendous amount of cultural people from all over the world working in and throughout Western North Dakota. I think the English second language class at Watford City has 250 kids in it. That's just a staggering number when you think that there's that many kids that English is not their primary language that are taking that. So we think Western North Dakota can do this. We think the communities are ready, and that's why we're jumping in with both feet into this Walk and Grow program. So here's a setup for why immigration, and I think I've been through most of these, but we know it's acute, we know it's timely, and we know we got to take action soon. So we developed this Walk and Grow program, global recruitment of oil field workers. I had done a number of interviews during the legislative session. I spoke to a workforce committee, and some of that went viral, along with my statement that said, you know, we need Canadians. We can't get Canadians the legal immigration opportunities to come across the border. I sent a note to Congressman Kramer this morning. I know that this is something that comes up every time with our North Dakota employers. We've got the best available, ready to go to work workforce is right across that border, and the immigration laws just don't allow those workers to come here. And I hope that there's a way to change that, and we're going to push out to our Senator Hoeven and Senator Armstrong as well. This needs to be a focal point. But along with that, I got a call from a Alaskan immigration firm that had seen this interview, and I had no concept of the Uniting for Ukraine parole program that President Biden's administration had put into place. But what's unique about this versus other immigration? It typically takes 15 to 18 months to go through the process. They get here, they have to wait 6 months in order to go to work, somewhere around a $15,000 cost in order to get those workers here. This U4U program, they can go to work on day one when they get to the United States. If they have a driver's license and they're coming from somewhere else, they can get a driver's license on day one in North Dakota. Under the current regulation, they can stay for 2 years. The people that were here just got extended, that 2 years got extended to 3 years. We think that these are going to be potentially the next Norwegians like myself, whose ancestors immigrated here. They are looking for a change. There are 7 million Ukrainians who have fled Ukraine, 40 million people in Ukraine themselves. They've got a couple million man army. Anybody that's got 3 kids or more that has previously served in the military is exempt from military service. They're destitute. Their businesses have been destroyed. They need an opportunity. They are looking to come somewhere. Typically, they're very highly educated people that are trying to essentially, at this point, harvest money and send home to their families until they can find a way to get their families here. This is a real possibility through this program. So the bottom aspect that is the key to this program is finding individual Americans who are willing to sponsor a Ukrainian person. You can sponsor actually up to 9 people. We are looking for individuals who want to sponsor that basically says, if needed over the next 90 days, I will put my arm around you. I will help you find work. I will help you find housing. I will get you to the right place in order to find you the services in the community that can be beneficial to you. So our goal for this program is getting 25 workers here by July. Today, I'll tell you that we've got I think we got about a dozen sponsors. We've got basically the paperwork being submitted into our immigration firm, who then works with the immigration firm in Europe to begin recruiting them in that 30 to 45 day period. We think that we can get 25 here by July. Then the work begins, and I'll go into what that means. But 100 by year end, and 400 here in a year, which I think is achievable in a much shorter period. As every time this gets out in the cycle of media, we get more and more contacts from employers and individuals who want to be sponsors, and any of us can be a sponsor for a Ukrainian individual, or 3 or 4 Ukrainians. And you can go to that website, which is the link provided in there, and maybe somebody can put that into the chat area so they've got it. We are working with our member companies at this point. We started with about 10 pilot companies. Really nobody that I've reached out to has said no. So if you're an oil and gas industry member and you want to look at this program, reach out to us. We're going to focus these jobs primarily on landing them in the oil and gas industry first, but they are by no means committed to any one employer when they get here. They're going to be just like you or I would be. They tend to be extremely loyal. They remember who their sponsor was. They want to work hard. They want overtime. And basically they're here just as all those tens of thousands of people came here during the peak of the Bakken boom. They're coming here for the same reason. So we're uploading and adding information. It's amazing every day what we learn about this program, because there's so much unknown. So we've hired Brent Sanford, the former lieutenant governor, to run this program. He's been working day and night on this and just garnering information, contacting employers, working with sponsors, along with a number of my staff members. It's really become kind of a fun project, I would say, but a big project. It is a big project. And I think from the standpoint of the state of North Dakota, I've given a number of presentations. I know they just authorized an Office of Immigration under the Workforce Development Council in the Department of Commerce. And I hope that we crack the code on this. There are a lot of individual manufacturers and others across North Dakota that are probably doing this on their own. I think there are 307 Ukrainians in North Dakota, 37 in Bismarck, a handful in Dickinson, but very few really reaching across the state. So it would be a challenge for an individual company on a small scale to do this. And we're primarily starting with a very mostly domiciled North Dakota companies that are having a harder time recruit nationally with this program and this opportunity. And two of the key areas that we're really focusing on, of course, Dickinson Belfield area, that is a Ukrainian cultural center of history in North Dakota. Glenn Bronco is the owner of Bronco Brothers, and Glenn is one half Ukrainian, and he was the first one to step up and indicate that he was all in, and he and his nephews are sponsors. And we're working with the Ukrainian church there. We're working with the community. Riva Kautz, who is our communications director, was out last week, and I know she was in Williston and met with many of you. And we're putting together these community support plans in the hub cities. Rebecca Kramer has stepped up with the Minot Chamber of Commerce. I think we're going to see that in each of these cities. As we met with them, we need it. It's going to take really a community. I think the biggest challenge and the biggest trepidation is we just can't ensure what type of English that we're going to have, and not a lot of us understand Ukrainian, and you know, the church component of this is important. All of those things are important, and the doors are opening on Ukrainians across Western North Dakota that are here that we're probably going to end up hiring a handful under the Petroleum Council to help these small employers and work with the basically the welcome program. When that group of 5 may show up in the Williston area, they're going to go through the One Basin One Way program. Kenley's going to deliver us an interpreter that can teach the class in Ukrainian. Hopefully, we're trying to recruit people that have English, some basic English skills. Typically, what you find in groups of people, they're not coming as themselves. They're going to come with their friend, their brother, their group. So that's why we're trying to get sponsors to say, sponsor 2 or 3. That way they can come with their brother or their friends, and they're going to come as a group. They're going to come as a pool. So the sponsor probably won't get the people they sponsor. I don't think that's the way we ought to run this. They basically go into a pool, and then we're gonna look at their skill sets, their resumes, and we're gonna try to place them in a perfect fit. But ultimately, we want them, if it's not the right fit doing job A, we want them to look across the pool of the rest of the employers in order to kind of keep them kind of in the group. Secondly, obviously, they may find some other job in the community, but trying to get them and keep them in these communities is, I think, the only way out of this huge workforce challenge that we have today. So what happens when you roll this out? And this weekend, the New York Times did a story on it. It's been basically all over the country in terms of what we're doing and trying to do this on a larger scale than just an individual employer. But what happens is people start calling, and there are other immigration firms that are calling. They've got up to 2,000 Ukrainians in the queue, documented. These are legal documented individuals with background checks that will be coming through this program, taking all the employment tests that everybody else would. But there are 10,000 Kurds in America legally in large cities. Typically vastly underemployed, hard workers. We think this is possibly a solution for larger companies who have crew camps or things like that, and 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. There are Venezuelans are not through the parole program of under immigration yet. When I say parole, that's just a technical term that they use rather than a workforce visa. We think Venezuelans are going to have obviously a lot of energy industry experience, as we think the Ukrainians are going to have a great agrarian history and culture that they've been working in jobs with a climate just like North Dakota. So we think that's a good fit. So we will see where these other programs go. We're trying to just kind of take a little bit of a pause here and be successful at our first 25, but there are opportunities, I think. And again, this is nothing new. One of the employers in the room last week, 65% of their workforce were Mexican Hispanics. So there are, and that was in their Williston office, Tioga office. So we know this is real and it's happening today. We're just trying to assist the employers with finding folks that we can put to work. So at the end of the day, how do we put this workforce challenge together in behalf of really the oil and gas industry in Western North Dakota? We've got challenges that came up last week, particularly in the Williston area, 34 to 37% turnover. A workover rig company might have turnover in the 70s. Getting people there, getting them to like the job and stay through the job is critically important in those first 6 months. Things that we heard, the lack of Uber or transportation from the airport for people coming into the Williston airport is a really, really serious issue that I think many of our employers have just overlooked. And they hire somebody, many of the people we hired obviously are coming. They may or may not have a driver's license. These are Americans coming. Certainly when they get to Williston, they probably haven't had a car before. Under the old airport, the old train station, you could show up, you could pretty much walk anywhere and get to a hotel and get to where you need to go. Employers have to think about this. I think the community has to think about that. How do we ensure that people can get from that airport to the hotel when they're coming? I don't have the answer to that, but I think it came right off the top of the list of the largest employers in the city of Williston last week. Cost of travel. I sent Sean Winko a note, or talked to him on Friday when I got home, and I said, you know, doing everything we can to ensure that there are options of travel, because one of the things I hear from on their retention side is that people are leaving, but you just can't fly for a vacation. You can't fly somewhere where people are starting work in North Dakota. That first 6 months, that first year, they want to fly somewhere like to see their family, or they want to fly their family up, or they want to just take their family somewhere like all of us would. The cost is extremely high. And I did say that the entire Bakken oil industry has really shifted from what was previously primarily Denver now to Houston, Oklahoma City, Houston. And the ability to get a direct flight, maybe not so much for workforce, but ultimately I think if a worker can get from Williston to Houston directly, their ability to get to other places in Texas where we think we're going to have a lot of these people move back from is huge. But I think from an industry standpoint, from a service company standpoint, a production standpoint, the fact that we are now so focused in Houston, that is an opportunity for the economic development in the Williston area. Making it easier for people to get into Williston is a direct advantage to your hotels, to your restaurants, to everything, to your the whole community. That can help maybe address this transportation issue if you've got more business activity. And these typically are the folks I'm talking about are the employees that come up every week. Maybe a lot of those employees that throughout COVID now are doing a lot of these jobs remote. They're using remote technology, but they're still having to come up, check on their teams, check on their equipment. So I would highly encourage you guys to continue to push in that regard. Second chance hiring, we are looking at that with the North Dakota Penitentiary System. Wilson State College has a program that they're doing some oil and gas training. I think that we've just got to look everywhere possible, and that's probably an easy button for us. So along with some of the programs in Minot that are available up there for kids that haven't graduated. I can't remember the name of it. So next slide. So in a nutshell, that's what we've got going on. I think the Bakken's in a great position right now. I see steady, stable, potentially oil prices. That's significant. It's not a do or die situation for oil prices in today's environment. I think that the long-term plans of the Bakken operators are there, but higher prices just helps everybody. I don't like $100 plus oil prices. I think it just elevates your costs and elevates the pressure on the industry. But you know, if we can be in that $70 to $85 basket, we're going to be just fine. These wells are still world-class oil wells. The evolution of the 3-mile lateral is changing the game in terms of pushing out that tier 2 area north of Highway 2. I think producers that had what they felt were marginal assets up there now are looking at those assets completely differently, and they're going to be critical as we move forward, because we can't continue to drill wells in the absolute core of the Bakken forever. Our inventory there is going to get shorter and shorter, and only certain companies will have those inventories. So each operator has a certain inventory, and whether it's under the lake or there's federal minerals and there's other problems like that, those things all really begin to impact you as your inventory goes down. So I think from a standpoint of the Petroleum Council, we're all into help, and we want to engage. We're going to be out in the communities with all our programs and activities this summer, and I'd love some questions. What do we got, Reva?
We do have one. Daniel Stenberg is asking how the Bismarck State College oil and gas training went, the one that happened at the end of March. And so I went to the graduation ceremony, and I was surprised of the 11 attendees happened to be from the Missouri River Correctional Center. And what Bismarck State College leaders said, nobody signed up, and the kids can't get off of classes, and people who work want to take 2 weeks off to take the class. And here was a group of individuals who were available. And about 8 out of the 11 who took the class were very interested. Once they were released, they were very interested in a job in the oil and gas industry because of the instructor explaining how it goes, and their site visit just cemented it as an opportunity. They went back to the center and was talking about how great this free class was. And now there was another group that wanted to take the next class. And I know this was an offer through a grant program that they would need to get another class in here before June. So it's a unique audience that is kind of in the world of that second chance hiring opportunity. So we're going to stay tuned. It'll be interesting to see how that opportunity will roll into a couple of workers that might match up to our member companies. Thank you for that question. Now we have a healthcare coverage question. Providing affordable healthcare coverage to employees is becoming a challenge for employers who are faced with increased year-over-year costs on premiums and an ever-increasing spread on deductibles. This creates a higher percentage of employees' disposable income that has to be allocated to healthcare costs. Employers are left with having to subsidize the continued increase in costs to retain employees as healthcare coverage options are limited in North Dakota versus other states. Is there an opportunity to develop a subsidy program for North Dakota employees to assist with healthcare premiums and deductibles?
Well, good question, and one certainly I don't have the answer to, and I don't know if Senator Beckedel was able to join us. I haven't seen the list, but I think that, you know, that's a tough one. I think the overall cost structure of the healthcare industry is probably the solution. I will say that thanks for the question, because it triggered 2 issues which I didn't fully understand, and one was that came up last week from the large employers. One was the availability of quality healthcare, particularly in Williston, and the concerns. And I know that I was the past chairman of the Sanford Bismarck Board of Directors, and I'm now still on the board. And I know that Sanford's been heavily engaged in looking at, you know, supporting additional healthcare opportunities in Williston. But it is something that resonates throughout the employee sector, and I know all of you on the call are aware of it. The other one that I probably was a little more surprised about was the schools and what they hear from employees about the schools in and around Williston. And I'm not sure if it's because of their crowded classrooms or something. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there, maybe for all of you to be aware of. This is one of the items that came up. And community activities, I'm looking through my list here. Community activities, everything that we can do as a community to continue to grow opportunities. I know there was a cultural day in Watford City a couple weeks ago that was largely attended. So I think from a standpoint of engagement, communities this summer, after a long, hard winter, everything that we can to create great places for people to get out and have some community engagement involvement. And that's kind of the focus behind our community support plan under our Ukrainian program, is that they're going to have issues, they're going to have challenges, and we can choose not to meet them and they'll probably leave, or we can choose to try and provide that support team for them. It's a big challenge, I think, when you look at the entire industry, but it's a lot of people that are looking for something to do, and maybe community leaders can get together and make more of those things happen. Other questions?
Chat.
Anybody got any other questions? Hercules, I think we've we don't have any questions. I think we'll wrap up.
I'll take it from here. Thank you again. we're at the tail end of our presentation. I just want to thank everyone for your attendance and being with us today and engaging. Most importantly, Mr. Ness, we're just really privileged to having you share, and thank you for the updated report, especially the GROW program. Very informative and insightful. The timing was indeed perfect. We're just really pleased to hear all the things that are taking place with North Dakota Petroleum Council and what's happening at the legislative level. Yeah, I think all of us, we do recognize that complex workforce challenges ahead, but there seems to be some collaboration and proactive measures to tackle that. But nevertheless, we're optimistic, about the success of these programs and where the industry is heading. And again, Mr. Ness, to you and your team, thank you for representing North Dakota well, all that you do for the communities and the industries, and we hope to have you again for a future update. Again, so thank you. And secondly, we do want to thank our sponsors, B&G Oilfield Services, the premier multi-service company serving the greater Bakken region for over 50 years. And for those that wish to pass this along to your colleagues or associates that weren't able to make it, please keep in mind that this video will be available or accessible on our website in about a couple of weeks, and that is rednd.com, WREDND.com. And if you do have expressed interest in being a member, we allow you, please do so. And finally, stay tuned for upcoming events. We do have on May 18th, Ryan Nunn representing the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis. Ryan Nunn is the Assistant VP for Applied Research, providing the economic overview and update of North Dakota and surrounding regions, including workforce stats and economic development industries. And Rich Garman, North Dakota Department of Commerce, the following day, May 19th, and he's a director for the Department of Commerce, as another update of job creation, economic growth, and sustainable development initiatives. So again, thank you all for joining us today. We hope to see you soon. And Ron, again, thanks to you and your team, and we'll look forward for the next update.
Thanks for having me. I see Jeremy Olson has joined the call. He's State Representative Jeremy Olson from Watford City. And, Jeremy was a freshman coming in this session, and he's really done a fantastic job for Western North Dakota, and served on the Finance and Tax Committee and the Natural Resources Committee. And Jeremy, I don't know if you're listening and you can pop on to say hi to everybody, but I think I just appreciate what you've done this year. You've been certainly one of the top 5 freshmen in the House, and you've done a great job for all of us across Western North Dakota. Probably can't hop on right now. He might be in a busy chamber in the House, but kudos to Jeremy. He's done a fantastic job.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you again. And that concludes our meeting, and stay safe. And again, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you again, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.